Hey there, my name is Alex Vanover with DIY Alex. But today I'm here on the StarCraft channel to teach you how to set up your StarCraft Solo machine. I know that with all the possibilities that the Solo offers, that it can feel a little bit overwhelming to get your machine set up. So we're gonna walk through it together step by step so it feels super easy. So let's dive in. First, let's double check that you have everything that your Solo includes. Of course, it includes the Solo machine, as well as the power cord and the power adapter. It's a good idea to label your power cord and adapter for your Solo so that you don't accidentally use this power cord with another machine. Another great tip is to make sure that you always plug your StarCraft Solo directly into the wall. It is not recommended that you use a power strip with your StarCraft Solo. So when you're ready, you can remove the twist ties. Then you can take your power cord and plug this end directly into the adapter. Then once you have those connected, you can take the silver side and plug it into your Solo on the same side as the touchscreen. Next, like I said, make sure you plug the power cord directly into the wall. And then when you're ready, you can press and hold the silver button underneath the touchscreen to turn your Solo on. Then after you turn your machine on, you can double check that you have everything else out of the box that you need. Next, you'll need this container that has 3 blades. The 2 with the red caps have a 45-degree angle, which would be considered your fine point blade. And then the blue blade in the middle has a 60-degree blade, which would be considered like a deep point type of blade. Plus, in this container, you have the red housing that we are actually going to put the blades in the Solo machine. It also comes with 1 cutting mat, a blue USB cord that I am not going to be using in today's video, but it is a good thing to keep on hand in case you need it, as well as your pen tool along with 2 colors of ink. Then once you know that you have everything, we can get started setting up your machine. The first step in getting your Solo set up is to connect your Solo to your computer via the internet or using the included USB cord. Wi-Fi is probably what will work best, and that's what I recommend. So that's what I'm gonna show you how to set up using the touchscreen on your Solo. So to get started, we're going to head to our touchscreen and click on the set button, and then we're going to click on Wi-Fi. Then you'll see this field here at the top that says SSID. Beside that, we wanna press scan to find all the available networks that our Solo can connect to. Then after the scan is complete, it will show you all of the available networks. So then you can choose the network that you want to use, and then we'll click apply. And after that, we'll put in our password in the box below that. And then you'll click set to get access to the keyboard so you can type in your Wi-Fi's password. Then once you're done typing, you can select OK. And then once everything's typed in, you can click on apply. While it's thinking, the button will say wait, and then it'll say connected OK once your Wi-Fi has officially connected. Then you can return to the home screen to start on your next step. Step number 2 is to calibrate your machine's camera. We're gonna do this using the pen tool. So first you're gonna wanna grab your pen tool with one of the colors of ink in it. It really doesn't matter which color it is. Then you're gonna wanna remove the little rubber piece at the end of the pen so that it can actually write. And something I like to do is to actually scribble it on a piece of paper just to make sure that it's actually going to write for us. Then after that, you're going to loosen up the clamp so that we can insert our pen tool into the Solo. So I'm just twisting the silver knob to the left, and then I'm placing the pen tool down into the clamp here. Now the key is to get the pen about 1/4 of an inch above the silver part of the Solo. So I'm gonna get down at eye level of my machine and try to pull my pen up until there's about 1/4 inch of a gap. Then I'm gonna turn my silver knob to the right, to tighten the pen tool in place. Next, you're gonna grab your StarCraft Solo mat, and you can peel off this piece of wax paper that keeps it from getting dirty. Then you're just gonna grab some plain copy paper, and you wanna place this in the bottom right-hand corner of your Solo mat. This is what we're gonna use to calibrate our machine. That way we don't waste any expensive material. Then you're gonna take your StarCraft Solo mat and you're gonna place it into the machine from the back side. And when you place it in, you wanna make sure that your mat is underneath all 3 pinch wheels. The pinch wheels are these little black wheels. There's also another one behind the carriage there. like this. So once you have your copy paper and your mat underneath all 3 pinch wheels, next you need to lower the pinch wheels so that they can grip the mat. And in order to lower the pinch wheels, you're gonna use this lever here on the left-hand side. You're just gonna flip it up. That lowers the pinch wheels so that it can actually grip the mat. Then you need to bring the copy paper to the front of the mat. So to feed your mat through your machine, you're just gonna use the up arrow here on your touch screen. You're gonna press it up to feed the mat. Once the mat and the copy paper are in place, now it's time to calibrate. We're gonna begin by pressing set here on the touch screen, and next we're going to hit camera. Then we'll click on adjust. Then in the center of all of these arrows, there's an OK button. We're gonna hold down the OK button until all the arrows turn red. So it'll look something like this. Then once all the arrows are red, we can press start in the lower right-hand corner. After you press start, your solo machine will draw this shape on the copy paper. Then you're gonna turn back to the camera, and we need to make sure that everything is well aligned. So it's a little bit tough to see on the camera, but there's 2 dotted blue lines that cross right here in the center. So it's running this direction and this direction, and it creates a little cross here in the center. Then there's also a little red cross here off to the side. And the goal is to get the red cross to be centered with the blue cross. So you can do this in a couple different ways. To move the red cross towards the blue cross, you can actually just press with your finger, and that will move it a little closer. But I found that that wasn't quite as accurate. I like to use the arrow so that the red cross and the blue cross are perfectly aligned there in the center. So I kind of have it lined up now, up and down, and I'm gonna use the up arrow to move the red cross up. I recognize that it's a little hard to see on the camera, but if you look very closely, the red cross and the blue cross are aligned. Once the red and blue cross are lined up here perfectly on the touchscreen, next we'll click on home in the bottom left-hand corner, and then we'll click on stop. And now your camera is calibrated. Step number 3 is to get your blade and set it in the holder. First, you need to loosen the clamp and remove your pen from the holder. So I'm gonna loosen it by turning the silver knob here to the left, and then I'll remove my pen tool and store it with my other solo supplies. To get your blade set up, start by grabbing the container of 3 blades and grab one out that has one of the red caps. The sharp side of the blade is actually what's inside the cap, and the dull side is the silver side that you see at the top. Next, we need to unscrew this little container and take out the blade housing. We're going to begin by putting the dull side of the blade into the tip of the red housing. So we're gonna start by pushing down the silver plunger at the top of the blade holder, and then pushing down the dull side into the blade holder like this, and then letting the plunger go. Then we can gently wiggle off the cap with the sharp side. Sometimes I have to actually bring it back out and kind of pinch it between my fingers to keep it steady. And then you can see that we have the angled sharp side of the blade sticking out. Now I'm gonna press the plunger one more time to make sure that the blade is fully inside the housing. And then when I let the plunger go, that will bring the blade mostly into the housing. Now this step is really important for getting your blade set up, so please make sure that you take your time here. You can see that the blade is just barely sticking out from the bottom of the red housing. You can always come back and adjust it later, but one really important thing to remember here is that we want 1 credit card width or less to be sticking out of the bottom of that red housing. So in order to adjust the width of the blade sticking out, you're going to twist the silver piece here until the blade starts kind of retracting into the housing. So we're gonna get it to a place where we can literally just barely see it sticking out the tip of that red housing. Once you have your blade where you think it should go, you can twist down the gold ring towards the red housing to set that blade in place. Next, we're gonna insert the red blade housing into the holder. So we'll place it in the holder until this red ring in the middle kind of catches on it. So we'll drop the red housing down into the holder until that little ring in the middle kind of catches on the holder itself. Then we'll tighten the silver knob to the right to put the blade in place. So step number 4 of setting up your solo is gonna depend upon what you're cutting and how you're cutting it. We're gonna need to move the pinch wheels to accommodate different projects in different formats. The first thing you need to know are a couple more parts of the solo. So we already discussed the 3 pinch wheels that we saw in the last clip, but I also want to introduce you to these areas underneath the pinch wheels. These are called the grit shafts. And if you feel them, they kind of feel like the roughness of a nail file. They kind of give some grip to allow the pinch wheels to hold on to your materials. So let me give you a couple of examples. If you're cutting material without a mat, then you want all 3 pinch wheels to be over top your material and the grit shafts to ensure that everything stays in place. So if that's the case, you would probably want to move your pinch wheels to be a little bit closer here to the center of the machine. And the way that you move your pinch wheels is you start by taking the lever that we looked at to insert the mat. And in order to release the pinch wheels, you're going to want to lower the lever, which raises the pinch wheels. Then in order to move the pinch wheels, in the back center of each pinch wheel, there is a lever on the back, and you want to flip that lever up in order to move each one. Another important thing to note is that you always want to turn your machine off when you're moving your pinch wheels. So go ahead and press and hold that silver button to turn your solo off. Now we can make any changes. We can move the carriage when the machine is off, as well as the pinch wheels, but you never want to do this while your machine is turned on. So let's say, for example, we were going to cut without a mat and we want all 3 pinch wheels to be over top of that material. I'm going to start by moving this pinch wheel over here, and I'm going to begin by raising the lever in the back center of the pinch wheel. And then it is going to be really, really stiff, but I like to put my fingers around the back side of the pinch wheel and pull it like this. But I want to place it over top of that grit shaft, so I moved it a little too far. I'm just going to push it until that wheel is back over top of that grit shaft. So once I have it wiggled over my grit shaft, I'll go ahead and take that lever in the center of the pinch wheel and lower it back down. Next, I'll raise the center lever of this pinch wheel and move it a little farther over in this direction. There. And then lower that pinch wheel. And then I'll show you an example from the back of the pinch wheel so you can see the lever. So now you can see from the back side that this lever is down. So then I need to raise this back lever in between the 2 springs in order to move this 3rd pinch wheel. So I'll raise it all the way up till it can't go up any further. And now I'm free to move it. So then I'll use the heel of my hand to kind of bump my pinch wheel over until it's as far over on the grit shaft as I can get it. Then when you want your pinch wheels to stay in place, you can lower that lever. And now we would be ready to cut matless with our solo. But if you were doing a print and cut project, for example, you would need a little bit of a different configuration for your pinch wheels. If that was the case, you would want 2 of the pinch wheels to be over top of the mat and over top of the grit shafts. But all 3 don't need to be on the mat. So you could take this pinch wheel and probably move it all the way over to the side. You also want to make sure that your grit shafts are not running up the center of your mat and smearing any of your ink on print and cut projects. So there are lots of ways to configure your pinch wheels, but it just depends on the type of project that you're doing and the format that you're cutting it with or without a mat. Once you follow these 4 steps, your StarCraft Solo is set up and ready for use. Your next step would be to install StarCraft Create on your computer so that you can begin creating, designing, and cutting using your StarCraft Solo. Be sure to follow StarCraft for more tips and tricks on using your solo machine.